What's up everybody, Lance Hedrick here, and today we have the review I am most excited about doing and have been waiting to do for over 2 years. What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here. I did 2 different lives on a prototype of this that I had. One was a prototype I got, and then another, Emily Bryant, the Queen of Latte Art herself, visited and brought another one that was a bit updated. First look video. 2 or so years have passed and boom, we're back with a production unit and we're gonna do a deep dive review today. So sit back, relax, grab your cup of coffee of choice, and let's dive right in. I need to remind you, I made a video going over this, so if you want more in depth about this, you can go watch that, but I am a part of Meticulous now. I joined about a month and a half ago, not as employee, but as like an advisor type of thing. You can go watch the video for more explanation on that, but let's get in to what I think is the most exciting machine on the market, without question. The Meticulous Espresso Machine, if you are unfamiliar with it, is the first ever robotic lever machine. In the world of espresso, they're working more and more on a more even displacement of water through the shower screen because it's falling through essentially nothing. There's a void in pump machines that needs to be filled, and those initial drops heavily dictate where the water is going to go for the duration of the shot. But in a lever machine, right when the piston's pulled, the water all drops simultaneously and it's right on top of the puck, ready to be pushed through. A lot of us have had that experience with a lever where it's like, oh my God, this is some of the best espresso I've had. And a big part of that is due to the column of water above the puck that's being pressed through with the piston. This, right when the piston retracts, you have an immediate saturation of the puck with direct pressure. You have a much more even displacement of water through the puck. People love their Flare 58s because they're able to profile however they're wanting, but that has a huge variable in it, which is your arm. This, you can find the exact recipe you want and you can profile it and you can get it down to the numbers. This has very powerful software that allows you to do everything you want to do during a shot based off of a massive amount of flow control as well as pressure. And due to it being essentially a displacement pump, being a piston, it has incredibly exact figures when you're working on flow or pressure or both. So you can set up, and I'll show you the app in a second, as well as the UI on here, which allows you to have a ridiculous amount of precise control. You can change up whatever you're wanting. You can also use preset recipes, some of which I will be creating that will come stock on these machines, like soup, like gushers, like one I call the Pseudo Italian, which we'll go over in this video. So if you don't want to play around, but you want a lever machine possible or capable of doing multiple different styles, including spring lever style shots, all of that can be done at the touch of a knob with different recipes that are preloaded here. Now on your normal home espresso machine, you have a water tank that you fill with water, and then it heats and then it cools down, and that affects the water chemistry. You can get scaling, you can get kind of sliminess on the inside, you can get corrosion if you're not paying attention to your water. This, however, doesn't have any of that. This is one of the other big reasons I was drawn to this machine and why I'm obsessed with it, is there is no boiler or water reservoir really on the unit where water just sits stagnant. All we have here is a funnel, and then we have a fulcrum here where there is that piston going. It has a heating element inside of here, a heat coil with 4 temperature probes. So what that means is you can put in room temperature water and it will heat it up to brewing temperature within 3 to 4 minutes. Or you can have a kettle if you do pour overs and you already have an electronic kettle, or you want to boil water because maybe you have a really fast water boiler. You can pour boiling water in here or whatever temperature water in here that you want, and it will stabilize it at the brewing temperature that you set. We have a pressure probe. We've got 2 group head probes as well in order to read different data. So it's taking measurements every second, multiple measurements in order to make the most precise profiling that you could ask for. Underneath, we have an E61 shower screen, which just means it's based from the E61 machines where there's no middle screw. You can clean, obviously, scrubbing the screen off, making sure the gasket's clean. That's something you'll always have to do because coffee oils can eat at the gasket. And then if you want, you can put hot water in here, maybe a little kefisa, because this all inside the funnel is food grade stainless steel. Yes, you heard that right. The whole water path from the beginning to the end is stainless steel and metal. Isn't there going to be a void with the shower screen? No. Right when you put water in, if the piston is retracted, it flows right through. Because right when the piston goes up, there's nothing holding it back except that shower screen. And with that weight of water coming through, it goes through the shower screen immediately and fills that puck. You can always use a puck screen if you want, but in the end, you're having essentially an immediate flow of water that is all of the grams per second that you can imagine based off of gravity, right? It just falls because there's nothing in its way. Now the drip tray, pretty easy, pretty simple. You have the plastic bit here. So the bottom part of the drip tray is plastic. And then this part is steel. So we have a metal drip grid, I guess you could call it. And it has a cup centering kind of mark right here. So you know exactly where to put your cup whenever it's extracting. Underneath, you'll notice something a little different. There is an Acaia scale. Now I have it's plugged in right here, so you can easily unplug that and go about your day. So this is a super sensitive and incredibly built scale, which means the whole drip tray acts as an Acaia scale. So if you do your pour overs with an Acaia Pearl or Lunar or whatever, you have that same type of power, that same type of precision with the drip tray here. The machine has a power button on the back, and then it has a tare button right here. And then up here we have a context button, which essentially gets you to the menu. And then you can scroll, navigate, and click with the knob right here. I clicked the button once, and it tared the scale. So it's at 0.0 grams. We can put... Now, if you want the scale to take up the whole screen, you just hold down the tare button. You're just using it as a scale. If you wanted to, you could do a pour over right there on the scale. You just got to tear it out. Now you pour that water on. Goes well over a kilo. Look at that. I'm pushing hard. Oh. All right, 2 kilos looks like it's where it kind of maxes. But anyway, we have the context type of button. So this, you click that. Boom. We open up Edit Profile, which is the profile that was just highlighted. You can go to your last shot. So the last shot I pulled with this profile looked like this. So it shows a graph on the screen itself. So as you can see, as I scroll, it goes every 0.2 to 0.3 seconds. And you can see where the flow, the pressure, and the weight were at that time. To get back out of this, you just click that side button again. You hit back. So let's go back to the menu. We go Edit Profile, Last Shot, Delete Profile. We can put the machine to sleep. We can raise the piston. We can lower the piston, purge it. We can preheat the funnel. We can go to brew settings and make some changes, like start on button press, purge, which is on, right? It's on button press, so you can do automatic purge. So right when you're done brewing, it'll take a few seconds and purges automatically. I like to do it myself, just so I'm not in a rush to get a cup under. You have some time, but even still. Shot volume. This is a really nice one to talk about. Most lever machines, spring levers, you're going to get air in there regardless, unless you have an air buster, some sort of air valve like the Argos has, or the air buster, which is a modification you can do to your La Pavoni. Unless you have something like that with a traditional lever machine, you get an air pocket inside of that water column, and it gives you that bouncy feeling. A lot of people do this with their Flair 58s. They fill it, and then they put the plunger on top, and there's a little bit of space between the plunger and the water. This will actually give you false pressure readings, and it'll give you just a different feel. So I recommended doing a partial piston retraction, and within a day they reprogrammed the software in order to partially retract the piston to whatever kind of volume you're desiring, so it goes up and it will not suck in all of the water, allowing air to trickle in. I have it at 99 mils. I'm not really pulling shots bigger than needing 99 mils. So anyway, you go up all the way to 150 because that is what the funnel volume is. So if you're okay with a little air getting in, you're wanting a full 150 milliliter potential to do a Spro over or something along those lines, or a massive Allonge with a 25 gram dose, you can do the full piston retraction. You will have some air get in, and that will skew the readings a bit. But honestly, when you're doing a shot like that, the readings themselves don't matter nearly as much as the grind size and what flow you're going. So not a huge deal, but then you can pre and post heat, and you have time there. So we go back. So that's brew settings. Then of course Wi-Fi, it's connected to Wi-Fi, connects to your phone. We'll go over the app in a bit. Configuration, so device info, time and date, all that good stuff, sounds, etc. And then lastly, you can go to exit. And then you can scroll to your other programs. So let's go to low contact. Now what we can do here, just like on the other, I didn't click Edit Profile, but I will this time. You click Edit Profile, you can change the name, you can change the temperature. So let's say you're brewing and you don't want to get your phone out on the app where you have full control of everything. You can just click here and change it by 0.5 degrees. Even though that's way too granular, no one needs that much precision, you can. Output. Let's say that you made a shot and you know the only thing you need to do with this coffee is you need a bit more output. Click it. I needed 52 out instead. Done. You can attach variables from the app to show up here. So not all of my profiles here show the same variables. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. If I go to Pseudo Italian, which is one I made, We go to edit shot. You'll notice that the variables are slightly different. Name, temperature, output, constant flow. I named that constant flow. I could name it soup time if I wanted to. I could name the variable whatever in the app on my phone and attach it here for the variables that I might want to change on the fly. For some of you watching on This Is Too Complicated, you don't even have to get the app. You can only use the machine and the pre-downloaded recipes and be happy with those, because there'll be some bonker recipes on there, like my Pseudo Italian, like my soup, like my gushers, and a few others that people are going to really love. But if you want to get super nerdy, stay tuned, because we're pulling out the app. And don't worry, yes, we're going to pull espresso, but I wanted to go everything, and then we do espresso kind of all at one time, and you can use time click cues below if you need it. You can tare, you can raise the piston, purge the piston, preheat the funnel, all with a click of the button. And then you have your profiles down here that I can scroll through. I can click on, I can click play, which would run the shot, or I can hit edit. And then we come in here and we have our variables. So as you come down, fill pressure, we have the fill based off power, a flow, and extraction. I'll build a recipe in a second so you can kind of see what all that is. But as you can scroll through and see all of the ones that are loaded on my machine. One of the coolest features to me is the create new profile, because watch this. Boom. Community profiles pop up. And look, my friend Rohan has a recipe. You have the Damien Londinium. You have the X-Dose. You have the Cremina lever, the 3-stage, the soup version 1.0. Boom. Bailey, who was the person that kind of discovered the OXO at a convention for it, and saw it was like the ultimate soup machine. He has a soup work in progress 2.5. So I click that. I can click save profile. I'll call it just what it's called. Okay. Immediately it's on my Meticulous. So as opposed to having to get some separate app, download like a freaking CSV or whatever, and then uploading it and doing all this crazy stuff, you just go to community, you come back down here, create new profile, and you go down to the community profiles. And in addition to all that, Meticulous is partnering with roasters to make their own recipes for their coffees, and you can upload them and pull what they suggest with their Meticulous for the participating roasters, which makes life super easy. So for instance, if you were buying coffee from Cafe Masher, they've created this recipe. You use their coffee, you put in their recipe, and that's what they're pulling at their roastery. But also you can do create new profile, you can do a basic template of Italian, or you can click blank. Now on here, on blank, we can go up to 100 degrees or all the way down to 3 degrees or 0 actually. There we go. Obviously it doesn't cool it down, but anyway. So temperature 87, final weight we can say is 81. It tops out at 99, but that's largely because I have the partial retraction at 99. Pressure, you can change that like so. Let's just put it to 9. Now we can click add. We'll add a flow stage. You could add flow, power, or pressure. So flow stage, what I'm going to do right now, and this is a really cool thing. Remember earlier I was saying variables can show up on here, but the ones that you choose, you can kind of change it just by sliding this up and down for the different flow rates. And then if you want to add another point on there, you just hold down the line and another point pops up. Then you can hold down another one, and you can do all this crazy kind of stuff. And then you can make it smooth by clicking in that top right. You can smooth it out. So super intuitive UI here that you can do on an iPad or on your phone or whatever it might be. Now, to get it out, you just drag it to the bottom and it goes away. And now we just are back to that flat flow. Now with this, you can click the gear icon and you can put, let's say, Flowy Boy. I don't know why we're calling it that, but we are. We click add, and then there it is. We hit save. So Flowy Boy, now when we go back, it's right here under variables. Now, obviously, I clicked the wrong gear icon. That's why pressure showed up. I clicked this gear icon down to limit pressure to, and that's the variable I attached. It's the gear icon here at the top, the one that lights up green whenever I'm moving this. That's when you click to attach that variable. You get the idea. So on Flowy Boy, we can use the pressure on the app itself. So if we click, for instance, save profile, we'll call it blank. Profile is saved. There it is. We go to edit profile and watch. Flowy Boy will be right there. We can change the Flowy Boy pressure. You can attach those variables. We can add another one, power, and there's that gear icon again. And you can do the power of the piston going through. You can change how quickly that transition is happening, and you can make that a variable. Or you can make the limit pressure for this variable to be a variable on the machine. Or you can do a time cue. At 10 seconds, I want it to move on, and then we can make this a variable as well with that gear icon. You just put in, high. And boom, now we have another variable, add, done. We get out of that, we hit save profile, boom, it's updated on here, we go back, we come back in here, we go edit profile, and look, there's high. So you're able to attach as many variables as you're wanting. You can make it as nerdy as you'd like or as simple as you'd like. That is what we have in the app itself. I think we hit pretty much everything that's important. You can obviously import profiles from your own files. I'm not clicking on that because I don't want y'all to see my files. I have billions of dollars in there. And then the last thing that you might be wondering is what is mirror? You click that and check this out. You can do your shot of espresso and the real-time graph will show on the phone as you're filming it. You can pop it onto social media or whatever you want. Now, of course, people want to know about the shots themselves. So I'm going to pull an ultra low contact. I'm going to pull a Pseudo Italian, and I'm going to pull a soup. And then I'll go over some of the more, I'll do a little bit of thermal testing and talk about the actual performance of it as far as the quality goes. And we'll talk about parts and all of that stuff. So bear with me. We're going to get this going. And even though I have my own soup recipe, I'm going to use Bailey's because we got to give credit where credit's due. And this is his work in progress. So we're going to see what that looks like. For this first one, I'm using room temp water. It's actually around 20 or 21 degrees straight from my RO. We're going to just hold this down. And when you hold it down, it starts it. See, it's starting to heat up. The funnel's beginning to heat up already. And I'll go and pour my water in as it's heating up. So the piston's all the way down and the valve is closed, so no water's going to leak through. But we put in this cold water, and now we're going to let it heat up. So it's going to take a few minutes to heat up. I'm going to go ahead and heat up my kettle, though. I recommend if you're pulling multiple back-to-back shots to have a kettle, and that way you can just pour in the water at your temperature, and it's going to go bang, 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 bang. By the way, side note, when I first got this production model in, I probably pulled 80 to 100 shots in the same day, non-stop, because I was doing loads of tests, like a champ. Actually, as it's still heating up, I'm gonna abort the brew really quickly. So as it's heating up, you can abort brew. You have to hold down to make so it knows you want to. And now I have to check what the output is. 55. I'm doing a 25 gram dose. I'm using a Big Boy Weber 28 gram basket because I'm gonna split this with Ugo. So with 25 grams, I'll probably need to do 70 gram output. Let's do 70. Sorry if this ruins your recipe if you're watching, Bailey, but we do what we got to do. I think it should still be fine. All right, now we'll go back to heating it up. All right, so it's already at 60. This, by the way, does not get super hot. I'll show you the temperature of it when it gets fully hot using my little infrared that Ugo bought me. The reason we worry about headspace is how long it takes to fill up that headspace, ruining body, making it a more uneven extraction. But with this, right when the piston's up, it doesn't matter. It's dropping all the way to the coffee regardless. We lock it in place. One downside is if it's not really well gripped on the table, it can move because it's not light by any means, but it's light enough that it'll move a bit. So I always hold down as I'm pushing in and out. Sacrifices. All right, it's almost at 90.5, so I'm going to grab my cup. Place it right there. By the way, we're at 87, and this thing is at 38 degrees Celsius. 40. The very top's about 40. All right, so this is something else I had them implement into the software. I get impatient. It's at 89. I don't feel like letting it stabilize with the PID controller. It wants to really get precise. I don't care how precise it is. Well, I was going to skip it. But it says we're roughly in the range, so you can click press to brew. But there was a ready to brew option. If you're 4 degrees early and you're just like, screw it, I want my coffee, you can scroll down to that, and it'll brew right then as opposed to waiting. But we already got to temp, so I hit press to brew. Piston partially retracts. Boom. No air gets in because of that. And then here comes soup. So I hear the power going down and down and down. That only took 6 seconds. So with his profile, I definitely needed to go finer. This works with the profile I've written, but everything's different. And here's our purge. Boom. Purging it all out. And honestly, sometimes I drink the purge because it's not bad. Unlike the movies. And honestly, even at 6 seconds, it's really not bad. Actually, that's pretty tasty. In fact, I'll submit it to Ugo for a score. 1 to 10, Ugo.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's like a 6.
A 6? I was thinking 7.5. He's lying. No soup for you, Ugo. So that's what soup is like. Here's the after. Rate that. You should see his face. Yeah, right?
It's a 7.
You like that better than the original?
Yes.
That's shocking. You can keep that. This was more acidic. That thing was, I mean, it's good. It's like a reward when you're done pulling your espresso. And I actually will keep it here because it's usually a lot hotter because there's not as much to grab the heat in the puck at the end. And so I drink my espresso and then this cools down. I drink that. I do that probably more times than not, honestly, if it's good coffee. So now we have hot water. I'm going to go and just pour it in so you can see what it's like. Obviously, there will be some heat siphoned because this is a big hunk of stainless steel. So this water's at 98 degrees, and you'll see what it ends up at in here when I pour it to max fill level. So it's climbing quickly. It only needs to get to 84. It's probably going to overshoot it. Boom. We're already ready to brew. Okay, it overshot it a bit because it was at 99, but it does siphon a lot of heat in here. So there you go. Now this one I'm going to use the S-Works stamped step-down basket because why not? This can use a step-down. You don't even have to worry about it. There are some, not worries, but there's some inconsistencies maybe when you use it with a pump machine without some sort of filler for that headspace. But here, there is no headspace. So I'm going to do a 17-gram dose in this step-down to 49 millimeter on my M98V. I do need to check the output of this because I'm using a 17. 42 out's pretty good. That's pretty good. So now we got to go back and we'll restart the shot. All right. So I can go down to brew now and it'll start immediately, or I can do auto brew, and that means right when it hits temperature, it'll start brewing. I know I'm bougie. I do the M98V for my soup. That's my favorite grinder for my soup. I use the EG1 with ULF burrs for my ULF. For my dark roast, I use the Coffeetech Monolith with the SSW burrs. So I'm using this S-Works stamped step-down basket for this. And we're going to get in and yeet. Now, something to remember is you want to overfill a bit if you're using a step-down because when it drops down, it's going more depth than it would normally do if there was no step-down. It has to fill that cavity. But anyway, here's a messy, ultra low-contact shot. Oh, yeah, here we go. 9.2 seconds. That's more like it. There we go. We'll go for taste test. Now, Ugo, don't judge this as soup. It's not soup. This is more like a boomer shot. Now, give it a real score.
No.
You like that one? I have something to admit. I actually pulled another shot for him, and he gave it a 3 because it was too tight, and it ran at like 15 seconds, and it hit 9 bar.
This is good.
That one's good. I had to go a little coarser. Now we got to purge. Now, something that I do want to bring up right now is I think one of the reasons the purge is so nice is because in reality, with about 120 mils, probably what I put in there that time, 130, we're brewing the first like 90 or so mils of it, and then there's 40 left. So you're essentially just extending the ratio of the extraction like a salami shot. In a typical espresso machine, if you were to go on then off, that solenoid is really, really aggressive and sucks the puck. And actually, I've shown videos in past videos of the puck actually unseating. Then water just goes around the puck. With this piston, it comes up kind of slowly. I don't think it's really unseating the puck all that much. And then when it's going back through it after water has already made contact with the puck, it seems to actually be going through the puck quite nicely. What is it called in Portuguese when people get the second extraction of espresso?
Carioca.
Carioca. Out here in Portugal, that's an actual drink you can order at a bar. You go in, they leave the pucks in the machine, they hit a second extraction. It just goes around the puck with that solenoid jump. But here, we have water constantly in contact with the puck, so it's pretty neat. Actually tastes pretty decent. Now we're going to do the Pseudo Italian, and we'll do this as old school as possible. Now this one, I'm really excited about this profile. This is a profile I've thought about for many, many years, and I've actually tried to get machine companies to make this default on commercial machines, but, you know, c'est la vie. Anyway, what this does is essentially I do full force, full flow as fast as the machine will go up until it hits 9 bar. Then once it hits 9 bar, pressure is no longer the driving force, flow is. So it switches from 9 bar of pressure to 1.8 mils per second of flow rate. And what this will do, if you have watched my masterclass video and understand puck degradation, erosion, whatever you want to call it, the pressure will start to go down as that puck is eroding, because at 1.8 mils a second, the flow isn't increasing. So pressure equals resistance times input flow. That resistance is going down and the flow is not going down, it's staying same. So the pressure must go down as the resistance goes down. It must. So unless you're grinding too fine, and the pressure stays at 9 bar because you were too fine, then what will happen is you'll see essentially what a spring lever shot looks like. So you can emulate a spring lever by just going flow first, and with it being piston driven, it's really nice. So let's put in a normal, like IMS style, Italian style basket, and we're gonna do Sacca Crema Bar. Now I'm doing the only proper dark roast that I enjoy drinking, which is a coffee called Crema Bar by Sacca out in Napoli. 60% Arabica, 40% Robusta. For some of you, that's anathema. For some of you, you're like, yes, someone who's not just drinking battery acid. That is majority of what I drink, but I do enjoy this on occasion. And yes, I use my Coffeetech Monolith with SSW burst for this. Oh yeah, we're going extra bougie, baby. Push for brew. Then it's going to do fast flow. It'll hit up to like 16, 17 mils per second before it hits 9 bar, and then it switches to a goal of 1.8 mils. So look at that. We hit about 16 mils a second, but now it's going down to like 1.8 mils. It builds up. And as you see, the pressure is currently at 8.3 bar, 8.4, 8.3, 8.2, 8.1, and it's slowly going to descend down. 8, 7.9, and it's going down and down and down. Got down to 7.8, and look at this shot. 23.9 seconds. Are you kidding me? So let's go ahead, purge the rest of this, and we'll look at the graph and take a sip. So look at this. We have our graph. At first, the green is the flow. It goes up to 16.8 flow, okay? But then the pressure peaks. It gets up to about 9 bar. And when it hits 9 bar, it's like, all right, let's drop the flow almost to nothing. The pressure dips for a second, but the flow is enough to build up the pressure really quickly, even at 1.8. So it builds up, and it's only really able to get to 8.4, and then it starts going down, and it would keep going down if we kept the shot going in perpetuity, right? So the idea is to have a slightly descending curve. Now, you can make it curve even more if we lowered the flow rate even more, of course, if we lowered it to 1.5 or 1.2 and made it a slower shot. And that also will increase your margin of error. Let's say you're too coarse. At 1.8 mils a second, if the exit flow is 1.8, it can't be higher than 1.8, then you're guaranteed at least 10 seconds for 18 grams, right? So if your first 20 grams come out really quickly, you get at least 10 seconds to get 18 more grams, prolonging the contact time and giving you a wider margin of error. It's a great way to pull espresso. But now it's time, bougie spoon, thick AF crema. I mean, look at that. And that's been sitting here dissipating. You stir it and it just eats it back up. Look at it. Oh my goodness. I mean, we got bitter dark chocolate. We've got toasted marshmallow. We've got kind of burnt vanilla. I'm going to guess a -3 from Ogo. But he's got to pay attention to that dark chocolate finish. That lingers for days.
It's not as bad as you thought. Maybe a 1 or 2.
Wow, we made it in the positives this time. Last time he had sake, he gave it -3. So that's a win for us. But yeah, so you can kind of see everything here. In our final shot, we had it at 38. It got up to 37.8. 37.9, actually. Perfect. 37.9, and 38 was the goal. So let's just finish this. For a lot of people, the fact that there's no steam wand, big con. I get that. Sort of. I don't ever drink milk beverages, so for me, that's a pro. It's always a waste of space, a waste of material, a wasted part of the machine for me. I don't like the steam one, but we are working on the meticulous milk, so that'll be the next thing, but we want to focus on getting all of this out as quickly and as efficiently as possible, making sure this is a perfect product, and then meticulous milk is on the way, and it's going to match the design language, look beautiful, small little side thing that you can add on, but you could also, in the meantime, heat up milk, use a French press, and the nano foamer, things like that. But there's no steam one, so you have to be okay with that or not. Another issue for me is, again, if you get this portafilter in tight, it kind of can move the machine a bit. I will say this table here has a bit better friction than some of the other tables I've used. When I was at Host in Milan, the kind of booth tables were pretty bad for it. I had to really ensure I was holding it down to pull it out. Granted, that's not a huge deal, but I know that can be annoying for people. So kind of holding it in order for it to not budge, that is something. Why is it 58 millimeter? You love 54. Yes, I do. But here's the deal. 58 is the most widely used accessory. So people can use 58 on this. And if you want to buy a cheap stamped step-down basket, which you can get on AliExpress for like $8, and you want to have the smaller diameter, you can, because there's no headspace. And it will act just as if it was a 49 millimeter group head. I mean, I would love for it to just come stock 49 or 51 or something, obviously. But I understand 58, most bot accessories, people have the tampers, the portafilters, the baskets. You know, you can use that, and that's great. I feel pretty confident that we're going to get an S-Works conversion kit at some point. I mean, I feel like we have to. We got one for Acaia, we got it for the Slayer, we got it for the La Marzocco, we got it for the Argos. But in addition to all that, you do have those S-Works, you know, conversion kits that are like stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I showed on a video about a year ago. I've been using a lot the dual portafilter situation where you put in the 49 millimeter portafilter holder, and then you put in the 49 millimeter portafilter, or you can do the little group head portafilter thing that you can put a 49 in, or you can do the spacer kit or whatever. With this machine, the temperature stability is not going to match that of a La Marzocco Linea Mini or a decent espresso machine. I'm not hypocritical saying this because I stopped doing SCASE tests a long time ago. I think temperature is the most over-analyzed and over-freaked out, over-concentrated on aspect. I'm not invalidating your experience, but the only sensory study that I'm aware of shows that no one can taste the difference up, and statistically significantly, up until a minimum of 3 degrees Celsius change. So a 90-degree shot versus a 93-degree shot. And even that wasn't super obvious. You're not going to have 93 and it stays within 0.1 standard deviation of 93 throughout the whole shot. That's not happening, but neither do old school lever machines. So I'll go ahead and show that now. Now, to be sure, I also have issues with SCASE testing because it's a set flow, a set aperture, which isn't going to be as realistic, especially in a pump machine, of what the temperature actually is. So I'm not a big fan of SCASE tests anyway. I think that you have to have a very specific protocol, and people have to know what your protocol is exactly and have experience with it to understand the numbers. And what we'll do is we'll take the Pseudo Italian, just so I don't have to go and make another profile. But what we're going to do, we'll fill it up to the max line, just past the max line, no big deal. We're going to go down to temperature, and we're going to set it to 99. And it's going to start heating up. Now first, before I did, because it needs to heat up all the way, I'll show what is inside going on right now. I've tried to make some changes to the algorithm in order to optimize the heat up of it. But anyway, up near the top, we're at that 79, which is what it says on the screen. You go to the very bottom, and it's at 68. This is something similar we see in the flare. 82 here at the top. 67. Now it's because we have that coil and it just tends to heat up a bit more here at the top. But you have a piston and then you have a valve that's closed. And so all the water is surrounding the piston. Right when this lifts, water's rushing and mixing all together to equalize the temperature. So it is important to know that although there is a differential up here, that won't be the case when it actually hits the puck. And this is something I've shared with him, saying that we need to take a heavier weighted reading from the bottom part where it's a little cooler in order to have a better understanding of what's going on. Now, I will read this first SCASE, but remember the SCASE now is cold, so we'll have to do a second read and get a bit better, more accurate read of what's going on. Showing it's at 97, so that's what we'll do it at, 97. We're lifting the piston. The water's down. You see the water's already hitting the probe. Boom. So it's getting up to about, and this is without heating up the SCASE. We're at 90.3. So it is about 7 degrees off, but that's with a cold SCASE. So we'll go and push this through, and we'll fill up again in a second. So the last little bit will tick up, but that's at the end of the purge. Unless you use all of the water from a full piston retraction, maybe you'll see a degree bump in temp, but normally you see a slight decline. Flow rate, pressure, I want that to be in same precision, but temperature, I'm just not convinced it does too much unless you're doing big enough steps. I've topped out at about 96, 95 and a half degrees as the hottest I could get this to go. But for me, that's more than fine. But I just would like to reflect those numbers so it's more accurate on the screen and in the portafilter. But you can get up to 96 if you want to max out. So anyway, we're going to let this go up and then we will start the shot. I'm going to go ahead and start at 97. So we're looking for about 93 would be ideal. Or not ideal, but reflective of what I test. 93, 94, so let's see. And bada bing. And we're getting up to about 93. So about, like I said, about a 4-degree differential between what's shown up here and what's actually going on, which can be seen as a con. And I think it is a con that it's not reflecting accurately, because I think it would take just a day of testing to be able to really get hone in the numbers on here to reflect the reality. So I think that's some work that we can do on the machine. You're not going to get kind of the capability, for instance, of having a boiler where you can pull shot after shot after shot. What you need to do is pull a shot, then purge, which some people can see as annoying. I will take a purge, and this is actually one of the reasons, another one of the reasons I joined, is because there's no water reservoir. It forces you to use fresh water every time, which will force you to have a better espresso experience. But it can be a pain to purge it. It can be a pain to keep refilling it. So this is not a machine for everyone necessarily. There are going to be people who want the more mechanical approach with an E61, or want the dual boiler to be able to steam and to pool at the same time, and all that stuff. You're not going to get with this. But if you want something that is incredibly well built, the majority of what is in here, of the couple of hundred pieces that make up this machine, from the tiniest screws to the biggest pieces, are mainly off-the-shelf parts. You'll be able to reach out to Meticulous to purchase any of them in order to repair your machine. The big piece in here, that's the piston, that is going to last forever. And we've done testing of back-to-back-to-back shots of just constant going, over 10,000 before anything actually happens. And the big parts, nothing really ever happens. So in any event, you're going to have the capability of fixing it on your own, or you can send it in under warranty for that first year. And of course, in Europe, there's that 2-year mandate. So it's going to be something that is going to last a lifetime. It's built incredibly well. It's heavy as a rock, or heavier than a rock. I guess it depends on the rock we're talking about. In the US, it's $1,850, and that includes the tariffs, so you just pay the shipping and taxes. And then in Europe, it's 2,000 euros with the tariffs included, or the duties included. So all you're paying on top of that is the shipping to your specific country, and they're all drop shipped from the factory in China. Very affordable, in my opinion, for what you're getting. It is super robust, incredible UI. You're going to be able to grow with the machine. You can make it as simple or as complicated as you want with the most precise measurements out there. The only thing it really lacks as far as the capabilities with profiling is it does not have dynamic temperature profiling. You can't make it cold and then hot. It's just heated. For me, that's never really been a big issue. I've played with shots that drop from like 85 degrees to like 50 degrees, but for the most part, I just do 80-degree shots on here, and it drops pretty naturally and is fantastic. And what you might be able to get with the temperature drop, I would take a piston over a vibratory or rotary pump, or any type of pump mechanism with headspace over that dynamic temperature gradation. But anyway, I think that's about it for me. I'm as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this machine. And if you go back and watch my lives 2.5 years ago, which I only joined the company about a month and a half ago, if you go watch those videos, my passion is exuding there as well, because this, to me, is super exciting. I literally have levers tattooed on my arms, but levers are hard to get into the swing of things. They're hard to, like, if you have a spring lever, which is my favorite, that only does one profile. You can emulate a spring lever. You can emulate any profile you want with a direct lever on this. You can emulate any type of shot, the Slayer style shot, whatever it might be, on this, with your phone, on here, attach variables. It's crazy. You just need a grinder by its side, and you're good to go. You can get a standalone milk wand steamer if you're wanting to have a milk bevy, but we're working on that. So anyway, that is it for me today. I believe I've done everything I was wanting to hit in this video. There's obviously more that could be covered, but this is long enough. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions on it, please ask down below. We'll have someone from Meticulous, going through and answering out questions. But I'm super excited to get this into more of your hands. To those of you who have one, feel free to comment down below your experience. We're super stoked. Now, regardless of what espresso machine you might have or don't have, whatever it is that you brew at home, the most important thing, and that I hope you take away from this video, more than FOMO, more than gear acquisition syndrome, because we don't need any of that. We just need to buy good coffee. I'm not telling you, don't go out and buy this. By the way, I do not make commission. I don't get any sales. I don't get paid for any of that at all. In fact, I'm not on salary with Meticulous. The only way I do well with Meticulous is if Meticulous does well over 10, 15, 20 years. So I am a believer in the longevity of this product, and I'll be around for time to come. Anyway, regardless of what you brew on, the most important thing that I love to end every video with, and say it with me, I hope you brew something tasty today. And cheers. .59 degrees. Peace.